that an election has to be publicly verified. It cannot be certified by experts to be correct. So you have to win public.
पब्लिक कैसे चेक करेगी? मतलब यू नीड सम
आप दुनिया भर में इलेक्शन जो होता है टाउन हॉल में होता है, पब्लिक के सामने होता है. व्हेन यू डू द काउंटिंग इट्स इन
करेक्ट
फुल पब्लिक व्यू, राइट? बचपन में मैं भी एक आध बार तमाशा देखने पहुंच गया था, किसी ने मना नहीं किया. सो सो इट्स अ पब्लिक सेरेमनी. काउंटिंग इज अ पब्लिक सेरेमनी. तो आप पब्लिकली दिखा दीजिए दैट आपका ईवीएम से एवरी कैंडिडेट काउंट इज दिस. ठीक है, तो आप पब्लिक में अनाउंस कर दीजिए ऐसा ऐसा हुआ है. देन यू गॉट द वीवीपैट्स.
आर यू
अब
टॉकिंग
सबके सामने.
काउंटिंग डे इटसेल्फ या चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन वाले दिन?
आई थिंक काउंटिंग डे. वंस यू हैव डन द काउंटिंग डे देयर इज नो नीड फॉर एनी चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन. आप काउंट कर लीजिए, आप ईवीएम का काउंट अनाउंस कर लीजिए, वो तो 1 सेकंड में हो जाएगा. एंड देन यू गॉट द पेपर. अब काउंट कीजिए सबके सामने.
हेलो, नमस्ते, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल। मेरा नाम पूनम अग्रवाल है और एक्सप्लेन एक्स में आपका स्वागत है। अगर आपने चैनल नहीं सब्सक्राइब किया है अभी तक तो कर दीजिए। थैंक यू सो मच। आज हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं एक्सपर्ट सुभाशीष जी, जो कि सुभाशीष बैनर्जी आईआईटीएन है और इन्होंने काफी कुछ लिखा है ईवीएम और वीवीपैट के ऊपर। इनफैक्ट इनका मैंने इंटरव्यू पहले भी किया था जब सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर आया था कि ईवीएम और वीवीपैट पर चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन किया जाएगा, और ये चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन तब होगा अगर जो भी कैंडिडेट जो कि सेकंड या थर्ड पोजीशन पे आता है इलेक्शंस के दौरान, चाहे वो लोकसभा हो या असेंबली, तब उसके पास ये राइट होगा कि वो इलेक्शन कमीशन के पास कंप्लेंट जमा करे और डिमांड करे कि चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन कुछ ईवीएम और वीवीपैट्स की जाए। तो अभी हाल फिलहाल में ही इलेक्शन कमीशन ने एक प्रेस रिलीज जारी किया है जिसमें उन्होंने कहा है कि चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन कई सारे ईवीएम्स और वीवीपैट्स के किए गए जो कि महाराष्ट्र इलेक्शंस से रिलेटेड थे। एक चीज जो मैं पहले और बता दूं कि महाराष्ट्र इलेक्शंस नवंबर 2024 में हुए थे और इलेक्शन कमीशन ने अभी जुलाई 2025 में इसके ऊपर प्रेस रिलीज जारी किया है कि ये कंप्लीट हो गया है और कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं मिला है। तो सर, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग सुभाषिस सर, एंड ये कॉन्वर्सेशन वी आर गोइंग टू कीप इट इन इंग्लिश, हिंदी इंग्लिश, सो डू नॉट constrain yourself. आप जहां पर इंग्लिश वर्ड यूज करना चाहते हैं प्लीज डू इट फ्रीली. टेक्निकल वर्ड्स विच आई टोटली अंडरस्टैंड. सो सर, इन दिस पर्टिकुलर प्रेस रिलीज जो उन्होंने कहा है कि ईवीएम्स आर टैम्पर प्रूफ, चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन ऑफ ईवीएम्स प्रूव्स it yet again. Now in this they have, first I want to understand that इतने दिनों बाद इन्होंने ये प्रेस रिलीज जारी किया है, ऑलमोस्ट 8 months, इट्स अ लॉन्ग पीरियड, और इसमें इन्होंने चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन की जो बात कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने कहा है कि करीब करीब 48 बीयू और 31 सीयू यानी कि कंट्रोल यूनिट और 31 वीवीपैट का चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन किया है। नाउ इस टाइम पीरियड अ कंसर्न?
सर्टनली यस. आई मीन, देखो, पहले कुछ ना कहने करने के से तो लेट करना बेहतर है, राइट? करना बेहतर है. पहले तो कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा था. बट आई थिंक इट्स अ कंसर्न. देयर आर टू कंसर्न्स दैट आई सी. वन इज द डिले. So there'll always be a doubt about the custody chain. Why get into such doubts? Why not immediately? Um, the second part of it is the understanding of what proves, right? I mean, देखो भाई, Supreme Court cannot decide what proves. ECI cannot decide what proves, right? How to prove a hardware correct is a standard, well-known computer science problem. And this is appalling that there are a bunch of bureaucrats who are dictating what proof means, right? So I think that what they're completely failing to understand is there are testing of the type that they have done. First, of course, you have to establish what are you testing. So custody chain and the delay is a problem, right? Now, assuming that you're testing the exact device or the exact configuration that was used 8 months back, a testing can only report bugs, not the absence of bugs. That's a counterfactual, right?
इसको थोड़ा और
तो
एक्सप्लेन
अगर
करेंगे क्या? मतलब
तो आपको मान लो आपको ये फोन है, राइट? आप कुछ दबा रहे हो, टेस्ट कर रहे हो, और टेस्ट में गलत आ गया, तब तो ये डिवाइस गलत है. अगर टेस्ट में गलत नहीं आया, उसका मतलब थोड़ा ही है कि ये डिवाइस सही है। The device can be in a very large number of configurations, millions and billions of configurations. आप टेस्ट को चंद 100-150 का कर सकते हो, ठीक है ना। तो अगर आपका टेस्ट में, देखो आपका, मान लो मेरा बॉडी, ठीक है ना, मैं डॉक्टर के पास गया और मेडिकल टेस्ट में आपने मुझे बोला कि हाँ टेस्ट वेस्ट मैंने कर लिया, ब्लड शुगर माप लिया, हाइपरटेंशन नाप लिया, कोलेस्ट्रॉल नाप लिया, आप ठीक हो, घर जाओ। इसका मतलब थोड़ा ही है कि मैं कल मर नहीं सकता हूँ। So suppose you find my blood pressure wrong,
Okay.
I'm ill.
So,
But
so
suppose you get my
you're
blood pressure right,
yeah.
does not mean I'm not ill.
So you're
I mean, it's
trying to say
ultimate.
कि बीमारी है, कि अगर रिपोर्ट्स में नहीं है इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि बीमारी नहीं है. It could be
नहीं,
there,
बिल्कुल,
you couldn't detect
I
it.
mean, yeah, even a first year student should understand this, right? I mean, that's not the way the logic works. So there are two ways. See, human body, nobody knows how it functions. So it's a very complicated thing. But when it comes to a hardware, to make that claim that सब कुछ सही है, you have to run it through a theorem prover to say that it cannot reach a compromised state ever, or it has not reached a compromised state ever. Now, unfortunately, for a device as complicated as an EVM, we don't have a technique for such automatic verification, right? तो कंप्यूटर साइंस में ऐसा कोई टेक्निक नहीं है जो वो प्रमाण कर सके. फॉर सिंपलर डिवाइसेस वी हैव टेक्निक्स, बट देयर वाज अ रिजल्ट वे बैक फ्रॉम 1993 where somebody called Rebecca Mercury proved that if you have got an EVM, an electronic voting machine, there can be no verification for it, right? उसका verification संभव नहीं, automatic verification संभव नहीं. So given that you can't prove it right, testing can only give you circumstantial evidence, right? It cannot give you a guarantee that everything is all right with the human body or the device or so on and so forth. So I think that I find it a little strange that ECI and the Supreme Court, they don't seem to understand this obvious fact. Where I would have given very poor marks to a student who failed to understand this. So that's all I have to
So
say.
the statement making that EVMs are tamper-proof is not right to say.
I mean, it's the same sentence as saying कि गणेश जी सब ठीक कर देगा. I find them both equally logical or illogical, right? Yeah. I
So,
mean, they are of the same level.
in
Yeah,
fact,
that's what.
since we are talking about the terms, I would say let's talk about three terms which are frequently used by opposition also. That EVM is hackable, that EVM is vulnerable to manipulation, that EVM can be tampered with. So these are the three terms जो हम सुनते आ रहे हैं, लोग use करते हैं. Among these, what would you say that is it?
So I
What
think
is
that
right to
EVM
say?
is hackable is an equally bad statement.
Correct. I
Right?
agree with you.
Because if you cannot prove that it is unhackable, for the same reason you cannot prove that it is hackable.
Correct.
Right? So either, but the bar on the opposition is a little lower. अगर hack हो गया तो it's hackable, right? अगर hack नहीं हुआ, मान लो आपने एक ईवीएम टेबल में पटका दिया, 10 पंडित ने कोशिश किया हैक करने को, अगर हैक हो गया तो हैकेबल है. अगर हैक नहीं हुआ, इट डज नॉट प्रूव दैट इट इज नॉट हैकेबल, right? It just proves that those 10 guys couldn't hack it. No more, no less, right? Maybe my second year IIT student को अपने नहीं बुलाया, वो हैक कर सकता था. So I think that these statements defy logic. So to claim that something is unhackable, the bar has to be very high. आप एक impossibility claim कर रहे हो, उसके लिए गणित चाहिए, हाँ, जो कि नहीं है यहाँ पे. So I think that the flip side of all this is that this level of discourse makes the public faith in elections go down. So I think that it is not good for the democracy of the country to have कोई बोल रहा है हैकेबल है, कोई बोल रहा है नॉन हैकेबल है, कोई बोल रहा है कुछ कुछ. Well, India is a large country. We are almost a developed country, so this is not the way we should talk about things. Right? So I would say that अगर आपको इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इलेक्शन करना है, आपको करना ही है, that's not doing it is not an option, then you should have the VVPAT, right? And before declaring the results, do a statistical audit according to a sound statistical sampling theory. I mean, 10 assembly constituency में हमने कर लिया, इसका क्या मतलब है? Where is this number 10 coming from? Why not 8? Why not 12? So, probability theory is used even, see, this laptop that I'm using, इसका जो testing होता है, that also goes through a sampling theory. It is well known. It is taught in engineering. So, after so many years of technology, अब suddenly 10 कहाँ से पकड़ के लाए? Why are you doing 2? So statistical sampling is not a new thing. So it'll have to depend on the margin. So for example, if the margin is only 2 votes or 1 vote, right? You have to sample everything.
So
You will do 100 votes.
are you suggesting that 100% VVPAT counting is the way?
No, I think that, hard work has never killed anybody. Why take a risk? I would say that suppose you and I fight an election and I defeat you by 10 lakh votes, right? Electronically, 10 lakh margin है हमारे बीच में. And suppose there are 9 lakh ballot papers to be counted. कोई फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता. Suppose I give the 9 lakhs to you, even then I have won. Then that counting is pointless. It's meaningless. So you should not count. But if I defeat you on 1 vote electronically, then to be sure that the result is correct, you have to count everything. Is that right?
So the winning margin should be a deciding factor, you say.
So I think the margin has to be a deciding factor, and any statistician will tell you how to do this, depending on the margin.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
I mean, this is something that students of mathematics and computer science and statistics learn in first and second year. So it's sort of textbook level material. तो आप दिस ऑपोजिशन जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में बोल रहा है, वो बोल रहा है 100% काउंट करो. क्यों करे भाई 100% काउंट? इट्स लॉजिक हो. कोई बोल रहा है 50% काउंट करो. आई थिंक दैट this is not the way the thing should be discussed and decided. I think that the grammar and the language is wrong. वो ECI बोल रहा है 10 काउंट करो. I think that I don't understand where all these numbers are coming from. आप statistical sampling and testing is a well-established subject. It is used in a variety of things. आप वो यूज कर लीजिए, कोई statistician को बुला लीजिए, वो आपको बता देगा कितना करना है. That's all.
So coming back to this checking and verification, you have also read the process that they have apparently followed. कि वो process कैसे करेंगे checking verification, उसी समय निकाला था the SOP. अब सर आपको क्या लग रहा है ये जो checking and verification जो हम देख रहे हैं, is it of any use या ये सिर्फ एक तरह का गिमिक हो गया है कि हाँ हमने तो चेक कर लिया to gain public trust rather than politicians' trust?
Let's put it this way, that you can't say that it is completely useless. कुछ आपने टेस्ट कर लिया तो एटलीस्ट टेस्ट में तो कुछ गड़बड़ नहीं आया, तो कुछ तो तसल्ली हो गई. So it's not completely useless, but it is not good enough to make a claim that election was all right. Right? So the trouble is, again, आप जो भी टेस्ट कर रहे हो, there are two difficult problems that I foresee, right? How will you convince people that the machine that you tested was the same machine that was used 10 months back? That's the first problem.
Custody.
Custody. Right.
नंबर तो उन्होंने दिया है, पॉलिटिशियंस ने नंबर दिया था, so they must be showing कि
आपने नंबर मैच कर लिया, नंबर बदल हो सकता है भाई.
हाँ कि मशीन बदल गया और नंबर
मशीन बदल. I mean, अगर somebody is doing hanky panky, then आपका नंबर मैच का क्या मतलब है ना? I don't think that you are.
हो सकता है machine, correct.
I mean, I think that it's illogical. See, you are questioning. See, if you are saying that you doubt the election, you are questioning the credibility of custody chain. Then you can't trust the number. It's elementary. The The second thing is that suppose it is the same machine, granted that it is the same machine, right? That it behaves correctly now does not mean it behaved correctly 8 months back.
Point. Very valid point.
Right.
Very valid.
So to do that, you have to show that the machine behaves exactly the way it is supposed to behave.
Correct.
And no other. Unfortunately, there is no way anybody in the world can prove that. Not TCI, not Ganesh ji. I mean, खुदा भी नहीं कर सकते वो काम.
The bug तो check करने से नहीं निकलेगा. Any malware.
So I think that checking is as Dijkstra, who's a famous computer scientist, say that testing can produce bugs, can prove bugs, but not absence of bugs. Is it? So आपको जो करना पड़ेगा,
yeah,
you have to treat the EVM as a black box, right? And you have to show that unhack जो भी हुआ है, you have taken a parallel route by the VVPAT. Is that right? So you have taken an electronic vote and you have taken a paper vote. आपने दोनों लिया है. They agree with each other.
Tally.
Right?
Tally.
They tally. I mean, देखो, exact tally आप मान नहीं सकता, if you are counting 10 lakh votes, एक आधा गड़बड़ हो ही सकता है. But you have to show that the discrepancy, if there is any, right, between the electronic tally and the paper tally, it is of an order of magnitude less than the winning margin. मान लो the winning margin is 1 lakh votes और आपको 100-150 वोट tally में नहीं मिल रहा है, you can ignore that.
You're making a very valid point कि winning margin should be the benchmark of your decisions in many.
But if the winning margin is 10 votes electronically, then the tally has to be extremely accurate. It may require counts and recounts and, because, yeah. So then that means there is an extremely closely fought election and your tally should be carefully cross-checked. So the winning margin is something that you can never ignore. So winning margin becomes a very crucial factor. And if you do this before you announce the result, without waiting for the opposition or the loser to complain, but as a statistically significant test, statistically adequate test, you will gain the confidence of the people in the election. Right?
So another very valid and important point which you made earlier in the previous interview, key makers can't be the checkers. And in this scenario, what we are seeing that the engineers who are involved in making are the people who are checking. उन्हीं को बुला के ECIL and BEL के लोगों को भी इन्होंने involve किया EVM और VVPAT को check. तो do you think it's a flawed process? Third party को बुलाना चाहिए था जो neutral है. What do you think? What is the process?
I think ये किसी को नहीं बुलाना चाहिए था, right? Public को बुलाना चाहिए था. I think that, look, an election, it is well known in political science that an election has to be publicly verified. It cannot be certified by experts to be correct. So you have to win
public कैसे check करेंगे? मतलब you need some.
आप दुनिया भर में इलेक्शन जो होता है टाउन हॉल में होता है, पब्लिक के सामने होता है. When you do the counting, it's in
correct
full public view, right? जहाँ पे the representatives of the candidates are there, general interested public are there, right? बचपन में मैं भी एक आध बार तमाशा देखने पहुंच गया था, किसी ने मना नहीं किया. So so it's a public ceremony. Counting is a public ceremony. तो आप publicly दिखा दीजिए that आपका EVM से every candidate count is this. ठीक है? तो आप public में announce कर दीजिए ऐसा ऐसा हुआ है. Then you got the VVPATs.
Are you talking about counting day? Counting day itself, yeah, checking and verification वाले दिन.
I think counting day. Once you've done the counting day, there is no need for any checking and verification. Right?
तो
सो
टाउन
आई थिंक
ओपन में होना।
आप काउंटिंग डे ओपनली कर लीजिए, कस्टडी चेन तब तक का छोटा हो, राइट, ताकि द ऑपोजिशन कैन मेंटेन अ विजिल ऑन द कस्टडी चेन, एंड देन आप काउंट कर लीजिए, आप ईवीएम का काउंट अनाउंस कर लीजिए, वो तो 1 सेकंड में हो जाएगा, एंड देन यू वर द पेपर, आप काउंट कीजिए सबके सामने, राइट।
फिर
आपका विनिंग मार्जिन से, अगर विनिंग मार्जिन 1 लाख है और आपका डिस्क्रिपेंसी 100 है, नोबडी इन इज राइट माइंड विल से कि रिकाउंट करो। बट आपका विनिंग मार्जिन 5 है, तो एवरीबडी विल से रिकाउंट करो, तो 10 बार रिकाउंट करो फिर।
बट सर, अगर हम चेकिंग एंड वेरिफिकेशन की बात करें तो उसमें क्या प्रोसेस फॉलो करना चाहिए
यू
जो
नो,
में है?
frankly, I don't know how to check an EVM.
दैट्स अ बिग स्टेटमेंट।
I may make a stronger statement. I don't believe there is anybody in the world who knows how to check an EVM. So I don't see any point in it.
व्हाट डू यू मीन?
So आप चेक क्या करोगे? Do you know how to check this iPhone? क्या चेक करोगे? आप चेक करोगे भाई फोन हो रहा है, यही चेक करोगे।
मैलवेयर है कि नहीं, कुछ करप्ट या इट्स
तुम देखो कि भाई टूटा फूटा नहीं है, फोन वोन हो रहा है, मैसेज जा रहा है, व्हाट्सएप हो रहा है, यही चेक करोगे। बट दैट डज नॉट शो दैट दिस इज करेक्ट। इसमें बग नहीं है, ठीक है ना। 7 दिन के बाद ये फोन गलत नहीं कर देगा, हाउ डू यू नो दैट? देयर इज नो वे टू टेस्ट इट।
तो यू
सो एक
कस्टडी द टाइम इज अ इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्टर कि एक मशीन
यस,
जो आज नहीं चल रहा वो बाद में शायद चल जाए, टाइप्स करप्ट हो जाए या नहीं हो, व्हाटएवर।
हो जाए, बदल दिया जाए। सो कस्टडी चेन इज अ बिग प्रॉब्लम, एंड द सेकंड प्रॉब्लम इज दैट दैट आप मुझे अगर कोई एक ईवीएम दे दिया, ठीक है ना, और बोला कि प्रोफेसर साहब आपका लैब में आप 1 महीना रख लीजिए एंड फिगर आउट इफ इट इज करेक्ट और रॉन्ग, राइट। व्हाट आई विल डू इज दैट आई ट्राई टू हैक इट, राइट। आई टेस्ट इट, आई ट्राई टू हैक इट। अगर वो हैक हो गया, देन आई विल से द मशीन वाज इनकरेक्ट। बट अगर वो हैक नहीं हुआ मेरे से, व्हाट विल आई से? द मशीन इज करेक्ट? नो, आई विल से आई डोंट नो, राइट। हो सकता है कि भाई मेरे से हैक नहीं हुआ, किसी और से हो जाए, नो। हाउ डू यू नो? सो मशीन का जो प्रॉब्लम है दैट इट कैन बी इन एन एक्सपोनेंशियल नंबर ऑफ कॉन्फ़िगरेशंस, एंड आई कैन नॉट टेस्ट all those configurations. Nobody can. It's impossible. That's why you cannot. It's in computer science what we call an NP complete problem, the verification, right? If I could solve an NP complete problem, then the world would be a better place. There would be no waterlogging and no Mahamari and no, right? The trouble is that there are some problems which are computationally intractable, and this is one problem that is computationally intractable. So I will never be able to prove that an EVM is correct.
So this
I may be able to prove that an EVM is incorrect if I find a bug. Yeah, so that's the problem.
so this sweeping statement that the very headline of the thing is of the press release, EVMs are tamper proof. You think it's a
I'm
state?
saying that it is the same thing as Ganesh ji ने election ठीक सही कर दिया. I mean, I don't see any difference between the two statements. If you believe the second one, the first one is correct, right? They come from the same kind of a faith system.
करेक्ट।
So yeah, that's all I can say.
एक स्टेटमेंट जो डायग्नोस्टिक टेस्ट फॉर वेरीफाइंग बर्न्ड मेमोरी या माइक्रो कंट्रोलर वाज कंडक्टेड इन द ईवीएम्स, लाइक वो डिफरेंट डिफरेंट जो माइक्रो कंट्रोलर जिसके ऊपर सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी कहा कि उसकी टेस्टिंग। व्हाट कैन यू जस्ट एक्सप्लेन अस व्हाट दिस सेंटेंस मींस?
So any device will have a standard operating procedure of testing. So a designer will give you, see, designer को तो कुछ तो टेस्ट करना पड़ेगा before they put it out, right? So there will be a routine set of tests that is not malfunctioning. ये बटन दबाने से ये होता है, ये बटन दबाने से ये होता है. So any designer, the engineers who have designed the system will have a standard operating procedure for testing it. That testing is for functionality. That testing is never for bugs. कि आपका जो फंक्शनैलिटी है, एक दबाने से एक हो रहा है, दो दबाने से दो हो रहा है, राइट, वो ठीक ठाक कम्युनिकेट कर रहा है विद द other units, ballot unit is communicating with. So इसका एक standard operating procedure होगा. So this means is that they have tested the standard operating procedure and it's passed the standard operating procedure, right? That it passes the standard operating procedure to the claim that it is tamper-proof is a leap of faith, right? That's the only way to
What
describe it.
test, what they have done, that microcontroller is foolproof, like
I am not blaming the ECIL engineers. उन्होंने आके बोल दिया microcontroller unit हमने standard operating procedure pass हो गया. That does not logically imply
that
that the machine is untamperable or unhackable, right? दोनों
maybe
statement
those machines are like this
no, even those machines you can't make that claim.
that can still
You can make the claim that it passed the standard operating procedure test. No more, no less. Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't mean
And
that
if the
it is
engineer makes a
tamperable.
claim from there because it passed the standard operating procedure test, it is unhackable, I would question his engineering degree.
Correct. So, sir, like for public, what should be done? Like there are lots of questions I face, you
No,
face.
I think that it is very simple. I think that it was the recommendation of the Citizens Commission of Elections. See, it is also the recommendation of Ron Rivers. It is also the recommendation of the US National Academy of Sciences that you have to make the election process software independent. Why? Because the software is not verifiable, right? So ये तो Ron Rivers ने जो philosophical transaction of the Royal Society में paper publish कर दिया that an election cannot depend on software experts, this, that, or the other. How do you make a thing software independent? आप ईवीएम करो, मेरा फोन ले लो, कहीं से भी इलेक्शन कर लो, एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इलेक्शन हो गया, एक पेपर इलेक्शन हो, दोनों को मिला लो, मिल गया तो सही है.
तो ये सिंह
Because
दोनों होना चाहिए इलेक्ट्रॉनिक एंड बैलेट जो
बिल्कुल,
हमारे पास
because the general public understands this is a black box. The
एक
general public understands the paper. The general public can oversee the custody chain for a small period of time. The opposition parties, the political parties, the custody chain has to be with the government. So, which means that the opposition parties will have to keep a watch, whatever way they keep a watch. That they can do only for a small duration of time, not for a very big duration of time, right? So, if you are reasonably sure of the custody chain, then it comes out in a public ceremony. आप पब्लिक सेरेमनी में मैच कर लीजिए, अगर मैच हो गया तो वंडरफुल, राइट? Counting, recounting कर लीजिए, that's all. I mean, and you do it for so suppose I am producing 10,000 television set out of a factory process, right? Sony produces 10,000 television set out of a factory process and they sell it. They will not subject all 10,000 to an extremely rigorous test. They cannot do that. So they will sample a smaller number and say that if in this smaller number all of them pass the test, then the probability that the larger number there is some error is extremely small. So that is called a statistical sampling. So आप एक statistical sampling कर लीजिए, कोई भी statistician को बुला लीजिए, right? वो बता देगा कितना सैंपल करना है, कैसे रैंडम सैंपल चूज करना है. आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट से मत बुलाइए कि 10 करना है. 10 का कहां से आया? What is 10? Why 10? Why not 12? Why not 9? Why not 11? What is happening? I mean, we are not such an illiterate country.
Yeah. So technically, sir, you're saying that going back to ballot is not an option. What we need to do is...
I don't think so. I think that ballot was terrible in my growing up days. Right? If an electronic election is not verifiable, neither is a ballot-based election. Right? How do you prove that it's correct? How do you prove that the custody chain is correct? So I think that it was a great idea that he went to electronic, and I commend the ECI for doing that, because for इतने सारे साल में कोई demonstrate नहीं कर पाया कि ECI गलत किया. You have to give it that उनका election सही नहीं हुआ, right? This has also not been proved. So I think an electronic election is harder for the average gunda of the ground to attack. So you do electronic, you do VVPAT, which is again a correct decision, right? Except that the VVPAT goes behind a glass, which is a little bad. I would have preferred if it came to the hand, and I put it in a box myself. That's on Matdan. But if you have a paper trail and if you have an electronic trail, and if they corroborate with each other, then you have a reasonable confidence that the
voters will have.
what is, so the electronic को tamper करने के लिए you need, engineers and so on and so forth. ये paper ballot को tamper करने के लिए you need the roadside gundas. The same person cannot do both, right? So I think that combination of both gives you confidence in the election.
Yeah, ballot is electronic.
And tally, and yeah.
Process we follow.
But understand that the electronic one is a black box.
Yeah.
Right? Despite your best intention, something may go wrong. So then it is important to use the paper tally to verify the electronic one. And as long as you have done that in public, nobody should have any objection at all. Do it in a public ceremony. And the custody chain will always be unverifiable. If you can hack an electronic EVM, you can certainly have wax seal. What is there in a wax seal? Or a digit or a signature, मेरा signature कोई भी ना कर सकते, with high resolution imaging. It's not a problem at all. So those things are also unverifiable. So don't depend too much on the custody chain.
Rather go for tallying both EVM and VVPAT.
And custody chain, keep it small.
Keep it small. And yeah.
Keep it small.
So yeah, that's on that note, I feel that it's very clear कि खाली EVM नहीं, खाली VVPAT नहीं, it's a combination of both. क्योंकि हमारे पास दोनों process है, electronic and ballot का, so best utilization.
And जो civil society बोलते हैं ये ऐसा connect होना चाहिए, वो वैसा connect होना चाहिए, बकवास है. Right? I don't think they make an iota of sense. They are complicating the case in the Supreme Court. अब जैसे मर्जी connect कर लो, it's still not verifiable.
Verifiable.
Is that right?
I think somebody like you should be there in the court to explain the judges that this is what it is, because there's the knowledge is also.
No, this is something which is well known, and the judges should. Yeah, what can I say? I think that judgment, was very good.
Judges to decide. Anyway, thank you so much, sir, for giving such good knowledge about it, because EVM is something all of us want to know more and more. Our questions हैं और शायद रहेंगे भी, but आपने जो कहा in the crux is that electronic and VVPAT का tally होना जरूरी है, and since we have both the process, might as well use it for the public good, voters' confidence, and I feel that's the good way to sum up this entire thing, rather than doing checking verification. इतने पैसे खर्च करने से कोई फायदा नहीं. So thank you so much, sir, for being here, and I hope the viewers also understand कि nitty-gritties क्या हैं. It's a very complicated thing, but of course उन्हें इतना तो समझ में आता है कि चीजों को और transparent किया जा सकता है. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Poonam.